Hey, y'all. Hey, welcome back to the Distracted Not Disqualified podcast. I am your host, Dari Crawford, and today I have a special guest all the way here from Dubai, Alice Draper. Hey, Alice.
Hey, Dari. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I know. Before we hit record, I was telling Alice how just honored I am to have her on the podcast. And yeah, I'm excited. I feel like I have her and like she's on here today and I finally arrived. Is that possible? Did I arrive? Like I'm only like 4 episodes in and I'm thinking I arrived already because Alice is here. So thank you so much. Alice, so tell the people who you are. What do? You do so many things.
Honestly, I'm very honored that I have given you the feeling you've arrived. I feel a lot of
Yes.
imposter syndrome. I'm not sure you have the right impression of me.
I
But
do. Absolutely. I do.
yeah, thank you so much for having me. I will do a quick introduction about myself. My name is Alice, and I host my own podcast called My Rejection Story, which Dari will be on soon, so you should definitely check it out. I'm also the founder of Hustling Writers, which is a podcast booking agency. We help entrepreneurs get booked on top podcasts. Dari and I actually met through one of my clients, and Dari at the time was working as director of ops. And so she was just the superstar getting the calendar and everything aligned. Yeah, journalism, I've written for Vice, Refinery 29, HuffPost, Business Insider, and that's where I learned to pitch. And I live in the Middle East. I come from a small town in South Africa, and I'm really thrilled to be here with you.
Yes, I love all of that. Like, yeah, Alice is right. We worked together with one of her clients, which was my boss at the time, and I was like, I remember her. Let me reach out to her and see if she would like to be on my podcast. Since I know that she has her own ADHD podcast, which I am super excited to be on and honored. Thank you, Alice. So, what else? Like this is your professional bio. What else would you like people to know about you? Like how did you so maybe take us through when you were diagnosed with ADHD.
Yeah, well, I was only diagnosed two years ago, I think.
Okay.
Um, and I kind of knew. Um, and I just, yeah, I wanted the validation of a psychiatrist telling me. I probably knew because my brother had been diagnosed, and a lot of the things that he'd gone through I related to. One was recognizing outside of a school environment that things look quite different when you start working and you need to work every single day. And in school and university, we went through these things of like, let I mean, not necessarily intentionally, but I know we both did it, which was like you don't work for a few weeks and then you like cram and everything and like, what we used to call whole week and submit all your assignments and work looks different. You kind of need to show up every single day. Yeah, so that was when I got diagnosed. What would you like me to dive into? I can probably go in a lot of different directions.
No, I think that's great. So you were diagnosed like 2 years ago, and do you feel like once your brother got diagnosed, that's when you were like, "Okay, I think I have the same things that he has." Like it's do you think that was you? Because we do know that ADHD is genetic.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even remember like when exactly it clicked, but one of them was definitely my brother's diagnosis and it just being like, yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, I think I have that too. And I feel like I went through different stages of clicking because I also remember being in university and doing this like online ADHD test. And it was like, you probably almost definitely have ADHD. It was like one of those like quizzes. And I like looked at it, but then I also like told my roommates about it. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you guys would also get told this. And I never really took it seriously. I was like, oh, it's just an online test. It probably tells you everyone that they have ADHD. Looking back, having like learned and read a lot of books and done a lot of things, I have a strong suspicion that I surrounded myself with a lot of people with ADHD.
Yes,
So
that's a thing. That's a thing.
I'm like, I think that they too had ADHD, and I know one of them at least got diagnosed later. But we just didn't really know, and women tend often don't get diagnosed, and especially if it's not showing up and like failing and not being able to kind of function. And so it's different stages because even now I'm learning new things and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize this was like an ADHD thing. And like, this makes so much sense. So I feel like I'm always going through different revelations, but I don't remember when was the point when it all clicked. I feel like it clicks in different ways at different
It's
times.
yeah, so for me, I found out like a year ago, right, in 2025, and I feel like you, it didn't all click at once. There's like little clicks happening all throughout that have been happening all throughout the year, and I'm like, "Oh, this makes so much sense why I was doing this, because that's what ADHD people do." And now I'm like, okay, so I've been like this all my life and had no language to put to it. So that's good. So you were diagnosed 2 years ago, and when did you decide to start the podcast?
Good question. I decided to start the podcast. Now it's also probably about 2 years ago. And I never thought of the podcast in the ADHD lens when I started it, so it
Mhm.
didn't come through in that way. It came through in a couple of different ways. One was that I would talk about rejection from when I started working for myself. So in my
Yeah.
journalism days, I would like post something and be like, do you know I got rejected this many times before I got this piece. And whenever I spoke about rejection, like I kid you not, people responded like 1,000 times more than they did to anything else. And so I
Mhm.
was like, okay, people really like hearing about rejection, which makes sense because we usually talk about success. And at the time when I started my career, I graduated from journalism school, and
Mm.
I was doing, I looked outwardly quite successful compared to a lot of my peers. And so the rejection conversation came in to be like, I know you guys see like the successes, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And it seemed like people were kind of starved for that conversation. And then also in my work with clients like Justin and all my other clients, I kind of learned that people and people's stories and their PR stories, and which I was trying to get out of them to do good PR, but also
Mhm.
just success stories. There's like pain and there's rejection and there's like
Yeah.
shit that they went through. And those conversations with clients that were kind of private, I was like, people need to hear this. Like people see
Yeah.
the success, they see the shiny labels, and they think that like that's all there is, but they're not seeing this other side. So it was that, and then I realized like there's nothing on the market that's talking about rejection. The ADHD piece has come through as I've been recording the podcast as like I really enjoy talking to
Mhm.
people with ADHD and ADHD creators, and I've been learning a lot about rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which is a huge part of ADHD. And so yeah, I think that there's definitely a need in the ADHD community to be talking about rejection.
I No, I wholeheartedly agree, and I never understood why, like, rejection would seem so, like, gut-wrenching to me. And then once I, was diagnosed with ADHD, I really took a deep dive, and I'm like, "Okay, RSD is a thing." Like, when you were saying earlier, imposter syndrome, like, it is real. Like, just thinking that I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, like, these people don't like me, I'm not gonna be good at this podcast, I'm not gonna be good at my job, like, that is the things that come um, that, like, swirl around in my head, and sometimes it can be, like, debilitating, and I have to remind myself that. And my family and my friends remind me, like, "Dari, that is not true. That's not who you are. You know, you're gonna be great at this. Like, this is just something that you have ADHD, and this is just something that, is really prevalent with people that have ADHD."
Yeah, yeah, it's awful, and I think, um,
Awful. That's a great word. It's awful.
yeah, and I
It
think
is.
I think that as someone who's also struggled with RSD, and I feel like I very much experience what a lot of ADHDs have experienced, which is going into like flight, freeze, spawn, like just brain offline when a rejection or a perceived rejection, because often they're not even rejections, just a perceived rejection, is directed at me. But I still think that the most devastating part, and it's what the mission is with my podcast, is the self rejection that occurs because we don't want to ever be exposed to these rejections. And I think there's a lot of reasons why no one really knows. It could be all the rejections we experienced in childhood. It could be the way
Yeah,
our brain's wired. It's probably a little bit of both. But living a life where we're just trying to avoid rejection at all costs, I
yeah,
think is just so devastating because it's not the full life. It's not the life that
it's
many of us
not,
dream for
it's not.
ourselves.
And that was totally not the direction we were going in for this podcast, but I love it. I love it. My goal is to have real, raw conversations that just flow, right? And I love that. All right, so let's talk about like ADHD superpowers and things that are not so super about what we do. So, what happens when you're like objectively excellent in some areas and consistently not good in other areas?
Yeah, yeah. I think this is such an under-discussed part of ADHD. And I mean, I'm sure it's not just people with ADHD. I'm sure a lot of people who are objectively excellent in some areas probably face some deficits in other areas. So for me, for example, I think that some of the superpowers that I get from my ADHD is being very creative and very good at pattern recognition. So I'm able to notice trends and observe gaps in the markets. If we're kind of I'm with a team and we're talking about like what strategy worked and what didn't, I can notice things that I think a lot of people can't. And so that makes us great visionaries and entrepreneurs and inventors. But it comes with some severe deficits. And
Yeah.
I think that in some cases it's visible and in some cases it's not always visible. In my case, I am lucky to have a team to support me with a lot of the things that I really, really struggle with. But there's things that are not visible. Like, for example, I wrote an article for Business Insider and it took me 2 years to submit the invoice. They paid me 2 years later, but it took me 2 years. And I probably, in most cases, would have lost that 500. If it had been a client, I would have lost it. But because they have this complicated invoicing portal and you have to go through their thing and it's going to be like 50 minutes of admin, it just became one of those things. My brain was like, tomorrow, we'll do it tomorrow, we'll do it tomorrow. Like,
2 years
it's,
later.
yeah. And
That's
I
the
would
thing.
write it on my to do list every day.
That's the thing. So I think there's some things that are like life-giving and other things that are not. There's things that I enjoy doing, like the creative aspect, that type of thing. But then like the admin or other things where I'm like, "Oh, I'll just do it tomorrow," like you, and before you know it, it's 2 years later and
You do it?
still need to do it. So what types of conversations are you having within yourself? Like, are you self-deprecating? Are you shaming yourself? Like, what is going on in Alice's head when, like, something is a deficit and you're not able to do it?
Yeah, it's hard not to shame yourself because I mean that's one of many examples. Like there's stuff like I have to sometimes get told I didn't check the road both times before I crossed, which is something you tell a 6-year-old. And you should not have to tell like a fully grown adult that they need to check the road before they cross the road. Or the rituals I have to go through to make my space not have clothes lying around all the place. Like, okay, we're going to set these rituals up so that we pick up our clothes and we put our clothes away and they're not going to lie around the floor. So I think when there's things that are kind of assumed skills that you develop in childhood, and by the
Mhm.
time you reach like adolescence, you've kind of got a good grasp of them, and then you're a fully fledged adult who looks so successful in some spheres and then is struggling with like basic functioning in others, it's hard not to shame yourself. It's hard not to
Yeah.
think that there's something really wrong with you. And To that, I mean, I would say, like, I'm still figuring it out. I am giving myself grace and saying, okay, like, maybe we need to just set up some better rituals. And I'm also doing something which I'm very intentional about, which
Mhm,
I think is maybe the downside of labels in some cases, is not allowing myself to say, "Oh, it's ADHD, so I'm just gonna be bad at that." And it's more like, "Okay, I have to put a bit extra work, but we're gonna get this right." It's like, we're gonna be someone that checks the road before they cross or
mhm.
picks up their clothes, you know? And so I'm trying to be really intentional about not just, like, scapegoating it and allowing myself to exist with these deficits because I think that also just makes you feel, or at least it would with me, make me feel worse about myself because
Yeah.
it's not nice to not kind of have a grasp on some basic things in life.
I I love everything you just said. I love that you call them rituals, and I've never thought of them as rituals. Usually I say, like, structure, I'm putting these structures in place, but that's good. That's good, and the go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah,
Oh,
I think from my research, like a lot of neurotypical people, they don't have to think about it. It kind of just
they
becomes, and
don't.
like the enraging thing is you're like, I'm here 10 years later and I still have to think, pick up your clothes, like put your clothes away. Like, even though you've been doing it for decades.
Yeah, and it's so that's a real thing. That's just one example with the clothes. I will tell you that, um I can wash the clothes, dry them, get them out the dryer, and throw them on the floor. And I'm like, "Dari, you have to okay, turn the TV on or talk to one of your friends, and then I can move around and start folding and putting the clothes away, but just to sit there, I'm gonna step over them."
Yeah, I'm the same. I like, do the laundry, hang it up, and then it just sits like we have this like indoor clothes closet, just sits there
Yes.
for
It
ages
just sits
until we need the
there.
clothes closet again.
And when we do things like that, you're absolutely right, like, it's hard not to beat yourself up. And that's where I'm, like, trying to extend grace and show myself grace, because for me, it's super easy to extend grace to other people, but to myself, like, it just doesn't flow naturally. Like, I have to be super intentional about, like, saying, "Dari, it's okay. Like, if you can't get it today, it's okay. Like, let's just try again tomorrow, and it's gonna be fine." I I don't know about you, but when I make the to-do list, I make it and I'm thinking, Alice, I'm thinking, "Okay, here's my to-do list. I got this, and this to do today." And Friday comes along and I'm like, "I don't wanna do nothing on this list." And not only do I not wanna do like, I don't even wanna look at the list. And so now the Friday's list becomes Monday's list, and that, I guess, is how you got to 2 years later doing the invoice. I'm grateful that they paid you.
Me too, me too.
I
But
am
it's so
so
relatable, like, the Friday to Monday, this is, like, every Friday, I'm like, "Oh, no, we're just making a super stressful Monday for ourselves when the pressure is on."
and but do you okay, here's the question, do you work good under pressure?
Yes.
It's,
So one of my hacks is I set self-imposed deadlines by telling the client I will have
self-imposed
XYZ.
deadlines. Okay, okay, tell me about it.
So because I run my own business, like there's no boss telling you this is when you have to do something. So I know that I have gonna whole lot of work to do and I need to space it out. So then I'll tell client one, I'll have this ready for you by Friday. Client two, I'll have us ready for you by Tuesday. Client three, I'll have us ready for you by Thursday. And then I've now made this external commitment to a client and they've got this expectation. And now I've got like the pressure of deadlines. Okay, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. I promise the clients my time management technique.
Okay, so, uh, you know what? Okay, if I have a deadline, if I'm telling the client that I will have this by Friday, and I'm telling them on Monday that I'll have it by Friday, my question to you is, when do you start working on it?
Big it is. I mean, if it's a huge project, but
Yeah.
Most projects
It's
aren't that big. I can always do it on the day.
it's for me, so sometimes I will finish it, like, I'll finalize it on the day, but Thursday night or Thursday during the day, that's when I'm locked in and I'm doing it.
Yeah. It depends. Do I
I
say Friday morning or just Friday? Because if it's Friday end of day, I'm probably working on Friday, and if it's Friday morning, I'll work on Thursday, Thursday night.
and, some things in my life this is totally off track. Some things in my life, I'm like, "Oh, I really need to get better at that." But this is one area where I'm like, "No, this is it. This is the way it is." And listen, when I lock in and that project is due on Friday, if I start Thursday night or Friday morning, it's gonna be fabulous.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna
This
be fabulous.
this is another point about the, like, being excellence and deficits
Yes.
is when you have I don't know, but I think, like, you have this diary, and I relate to it as well. When you know that you can lock in and produce work better at a better pace and better standard than most people. So, like, I
Mhm,
experienced that a lot when I was younger in university. I'd do an essay, like, way after everyone else started, but then still get like, some of the best grades.
mhm.
You kind of gaslight yourself whenever you're not working at that.
Yes.
So when you're not like, "Oh, I'm having this, like, super productive day, and I'm just, like, banged out 5,000 words, and they're, like, excellent and stuff," then it's like you have a day where you kind of did barely anything. You replied to some emails and you attended a meeting. That's, I think, a lot of,
You
like,
took a nap. You took a nap.
you took a nap. It's like, I feel so ashamed and useless because
Yes.
why didn't I have this hyper productive day? But I don't necessarily think we can hyper focus all the time.
We so hyper focusing is super exhausting. Like when I call myself, some people are procrastinators, and I don't say I'm a procrastinator. I say I'm a pressure cooker. So think about here in the States, we have like Instapots and pressure cookers and things like that. So it cooks the food. And again, it's going to be amazing, but it takes like half the time. And that's what I am. I'm a pressure cooker.
I love that.
When the pressure is on, I'm getting it done. Yeah. So talk to us about um, what it was like growing up in South Africa and what did success look like to you?
What it was like growing up with ADHD or
Mhm.
just growing up in general?
I think both
Yeah.
because you just found out 2 years ago. So maybe looking back, what was it like if you would have had the language to say like you had ADHD?
Yeah, yeah. I imagine at the time, because it wasn't really, like, normalized the way it is now, I
Absolutely.
may have felt a lot of shame if I was a child, if I had this label. I might be like, oh, because like, there must be something really wrong with me. I don't know, but it might have been helpful. I do have a friend who's my age who was diagnosed at a young age, like maybe 8 or 9,
Mhm.
and she only told me in adulthood that she was diagnosed with ADHD because she felt so much shame that she had this label. So I don't know what it would have been like if I'd known, but I can tell you I didn't know. And um, I, yeah, growing up in South Africa, I was part of the born free generation. So for anyone listening, South Africa was under apartheid until 1994. I was born in 1997. I'm 28, and the my school years were I was the first generation to go into multi mixed race schooling because in South
Mhm.
Africa everyone was separated by race, and I think
I
that
did not know
informed
that. I didn't know
yeah.
that. This is educating. Tell me more.
Yeah, so Nelson Mandela became president in 1994, and schools started accepting people of all races. My school was formerly white, and I am friends and went to school with and still am friends with people of all races. But it was interesting, and I think that being part of, like, the apartheid legacy very much informed my schooling experience because, even though we were mixed, like, mixed race in the school and everyone interacted with each other, people were still very segregated. So the minute like the bell rang and it was break time, everyone would go into their respective racial groups and like all the white kids will sit together, the Indian kids will sit together, the black kids will sit together. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so it still remained quite segregated. And like I mentioned, it was a small town in South Africa. And it really informed my kind of social perception of the world. I grew up a bit differently to most white South Africans.
Mhm.
My preschool that I went to, I was the only white student in this preschool because it was like part of like the university, and my parents sent me there. And like most white people are like, oh, we don't want to like send our kids there because there's too many black people. And so a lot of my friends were black, Indian, mixed race, which is considered a
Mhm.
separate racial group in South Africa. Um, and I just became so aware of like racial tension and the racism within the schools because these were formerly white schools. So that's kind of like a social side that was just interesting. And I think South Africa has progressed a lot. When I see younger generations, I'm just quite amazed by also they have language to describe things and they're just so much more integrated and just more aware. Um, and in my time, like, yeah, the kids, we like it was pre internet being mainstream, so we didn't really have language or know what was happening.
Yeah.
So yeah, socially it wasn't very interesting. And then ADHD wise, I think that my ADHD informed a lot of my schooling experience. I always felt like I had unfulfilled potential. That was like the kind of number one piece of feedback that teachers like to give me or my parents.
Okay, pause. Tell me about this because I feel the same way. Like, I feel like, yeah, there was unfulfilled potential. Like, I always felt like I was supposed to be doing something else, but I just couldn't get to the something else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that shame failure piece came in, right? Because
Mhm.
Um, with me, I think what the teachers saw, because teachers didn't know that I had ADHD, they had a very limited understanding of what ADHD was. They see this kid who seems quite bright. When she does do her work, she does really like good stuff. She contributes interesting ideas, she reads well, she can problem solve well. But most of the time she's staring out of the window. And most of the time she's like not doing her work and she's like not following instructions. And so to them, they're like, you could be a top student. And so I remember like so well my grade six teacher saying to my mom in front of me, she could be like one of the top five students. She could be achieving marks in the
Could.
90s, but she's just not focused. She's not trying. like, and
Do you know how, like, that is hurtful? Even like, I'm 46, and just hearing that, that's hurtful. That would have really hurt my feelings.
yeah, and I didn't think you felt like you could let your feelings be hurt. I think at the time it was like you're like it's kind of a compliment. Like you're being told that you have it in you. So there's like that piece where you're like, I don't know, and this is at least how I perceived it. So it's like I don't know like how I should feel about this because you are kind of saying I'm above average and that's nice to know.
Right.
But then there's like, okay, I'm clearly not doing good enough. And I internalize that as I'm not trying hard enough. Like I should be trying harder. And I would every year I would like come start the year and be like, this is the year I'm gonna listen in class. I've got all these notebooks, I'm gonna take notes, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna be like the students that listened in class. and it
Okay.
just
What what happened with all those notebooks? Did you use them?
No, one year I bought all these notebooks for each subject. I like put beautiful covers, and I don't know if you guys had this, but like there'd be like this it's always like cling wrap that where you'd cover. So you'd like wrap your books with wrapping paper, basically, is
Uh-huh,
what you do.
uh-huh.
And then there's like sticky plastic that goes over the wrapping paper. So I remember doing that for like every subject. Like these are going to be my extra books that I write notes on. And I think I like made it through like one day of like one page of notes each subject. And
Wait, one day? Seriously? I had this, present day, I had this book and it's all over the internet. I think it's like the Commit 30 or Commit 60 or something. So it's this very detailed like notebook and comes with all these stickers. And you see the people on social media and they're like, this is how my notebook looks. And it's all color coded. And I drew this and this. And so I got it thinking that Dari Nicole Crawford could do this. Alice, it was a waste of money. It was a wait that was when I was, like, I had that dopamine, like, I can do this, I can
Yeah.
do this, and then the day came, and I was like, "I don't even know where my pens are. I don't feel like getting them. I can't get the I don't no, it's not gonna happen. It's not
Was this
happening."
in childhood or in adulthood?
Uh, I was an adult, like, recently,
Yeah. I mean,
and
it's super relatable, the pile of
it's
notebooks.
yes, I was like, "No, I cannot do this. This is not gonna be a thing at all."
Yeah.
So, on the outside, you look so successful. You are running a business, you're an entrepreneur, you have these articles published. What does that success look like and how does it like weigh on you? Like, do you feel, and I'm asking this in a sense of like, how does it weigh on you? Do you feel like you're quote unquote like a fraud because you feel like you're telling yourself you're not that successful, or what is that like? I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I think what we spoke about earlier about like kind of having those deficits, I think there's that where it's like, okay, there's a fraud. Maybe that's where imposter syndrome
Yeah.
breeds, at least in my case, or maybe in some other people's cases where like, okay, there's whole side of the picture people are not seeing. And so like if they don't have the full picture, then they clearly have a misrepresentation
Yeah.
of what success looks like, or like what, yeah, if maybe if they saw the full picture, they would view things differently. What was the other part of your question? Sorry, I'm blank.
That is so that is so ADHD, that's why we're here. I don't and listen, I don't even know what the whole question was. No,
Hopefully the
just
listeners are ADHDs too. So they're like, yeah,
I
that's what I
I
remember.
hope they yes, I hope they understand that sometimes it's like, "Squirrel, what was I doing? Oh, okay, let me come back." No, just what did or does people may perceive you as being successful? Like, what are some of the things that you feel like you are successful at, and what are things that you feel like you're not successful at? And I guess that's the not successful is like the deficit where you were talking about the laundry or that type of thing. Um, so I'll kind of chime in with my response is there are some things that I feel like I'm successful with, especially like regarding my family. And so let me go back to this. There are 3 types of ADHD, and I am number 3, right? So I have both inattentive and hyper. And when I feel like my inattentive shows up is I can be a little messy, I can be a little lazy, I can be stuck, or, like I just can't get to that next level where I feel like the average person can do it, and that's when I start to shame myself. So when someone comes in my house, I look like I'm successful. I'm neat and organized, right? But I think to the naked eye, they can't tell what's going on in here that I have to get up and do like in the morning, I have to get up, make my bed. I have to do this, 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 and this before I get to the next step. Like I've got these rituals in place that I have to do in order to look successful or yet come across as neat and organized. And now I feel like I can't turn it off. Like I have to do this. So does that
Mm.
make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what's coming to mind? And I saw
Tell
an
me.
Instagram reel about this. So it's just like, and I don't know if it's an ADHD thing, but I think that ADHDers have worked really hard for their success, and sometimes have had to go through more like strict rituals with themselves to work. Like if I go back to like schooling, university days, like the what I went through to study. even just
Mhm.
actually in high school, was so much more than what I saw my peers go through. So, like,
Yeah.
I had peers who would sit, listen in a class, then write the test and get the same grade as me, except I went home and wrote notes and studied for like 4 hours because I didn't retain anything that was said in that class room. And so there's that like working really hard for success. And then when you go out into the real world and you work really hard for success, and if you like achieve that success, I don't know if you have a story, but whenever I like reach like a new height, that
Mhm.
becomes my baseline. And it's like, okay, like that's, I haven't arrived anywhere. I need to keep climbing. Like it's, yeah, like you never really reward yourself for like getting anywhere. And I don't know if it's
Yeah.
at like the unfulfilled potential thing where you're like, I still need to reach the potential. Like,
Yeah. I definitely think the unfulfilled potential, like, it plays a part in that, and I do the same thing, just, like, feel like it can be better. I can do better. It's like, I have this podcast. It's good, but it could be great. I can make it better. It can be phenomenal. It can be, worldwide, that type of thing. So how can I get to that next level? Which, side note, remember, I said having you on the podcast means I have arrived. So thank you. I don't need to go any higher.
good to have those moments because I think it's so easy to like never have them. My best
Yeah.
friend is so good at that where like we will just be having a meal or we'll be doing something and she'd be like, can you believe like this is us? Can you believe this is our life? Do you think like 5 years ago we could have dreamed that we would be here or we'd be like paying to travel? Like this is what we'd be doing. And
Yeah.
I just think that it's so easy to go through life never having those moments and being like, actually, yeah, it's pretty freaking amazing, like where we've arrived.
Yeah. I think that's the cool part is when we take time to, like, look back at the journey, like, what it took to get here, and for me, I am a believer, and me and my husband be praying or me and my friends are praying, and I'm like, "Yo, this is what we prayed for. This is an answered prayer, and we are living in this answered prayer. Like, why am I not ecstatic right now? Why am I not, like, celebrating this?" And ADHD has challenged me to celebrate the small victories, like, celebrate the things that I am that are my superpower, right? But then also celebrate the things that are not. Like, maybe that's just not my thing, and maybe this other thing is my thing, and that's okay. So it's like if there's a deficit with cleaning or something, maybe I need to hire a cleaner. Maybe like, maybe my husband listen, Derek, if you're listening to this, and Dwayne and Deja, maybe y'all need to clean more, so I'm not cleaning as much. But yeah, it's like whatever the deficit is, figure out how we can make it a success.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, exactly. Like sourcing is such a
yes.
great example. We don't have to do it all.
Yeah.
And it goes for business too. I think that people with ADHD, if they start a business, partner with someone who's really good at operations and like the little details and the things that make you want to tear your hair out. That's success. Like
To me, honestly, that is winning. That is winning, that's success. It's like, let's have some other people that have strengths outside of what we have strengths in. Yeah. I just love this whole conversation. So my internal voice, my internal child tells me like again, like I said earlier, that I'm not successful. I'm behind. I'm starting this too late. Like what does your internal voice sound like to you?
that's a big question. Um, what does she sound like? As you're talking, I'm like, do I know what my internal voice sounds like? Like, what is she saying now?
Yeah,
I think,
right.
um, I think that my internal voice can be negative, but I do think that I have a somewhat decent amount of self-awareness and kind of just understanding of psychology to know that that's not very motivating. So it's not very motivating to berate yourself or to sort of cut yourself down. So I do often reframe things. So my little voice will often be like, no, 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 actually, it's not that bad. Like, put things into context. You did this, or this has been happening in your life. And
That's
considering
good.
all these things, it's pretty impressive that you managed to even do anything, So, like, that's maybe like in the business side. Or socially, for example, like I moved to a new city, and it's hard leaving your home country and being around new people and not people who you necessarily have the same shared culture, or
Mhm.
values. And so making new friends, like it's easy to go kind of like, okay, something must be wrong with me. Like, why have I not found my people? Why like have
Mhm.
I found few people who I feel like are my people? And I think that I am luckily able to be like, okay, but like, given this circumstance and this circumstance and this circumstance and this circumstance, it's pretty impressive you've managed to do what you have done. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, so she's constantly renegotiating, I guess, what the first thought is.
I love that. I love the renegotiating. So for me, my inner voice is sometimes so I hear it and sometimes I let her win, right? And other times where I'm giving pushback, like you're saying, like the negotiating part. But I have to stop. I need to pause and think, okay, what voice is this? Meaning like whose voice is this? Like why am I hearing this voice? And it could be from childhood and I'm hearing someone's voice. It could be an old friend that said things to me and I'm hearing their voice and I'm like, "No, like you said, the negotiating like, no, that's not accurate. That is not that's not who you are. Like you're doing great. You are successful. You've accomplished this. Don't beat yourself up about that." I that whole inner child thing came up in therapy, and I am a work in progress because sometimes I feel like her voice is very harsh, and I'm, like, very sensitive when it comes to things. So I'm saying, like, "Okay, can you, like, rephrase that? Like, can you change your tone? Because that didn't feel good," you know? And I feel like I'm talking to myself in that manner, but yeah, I like the negotiating. That's good for me. Thank you
Yeah,
for that.
yeah, and give yourself grace for,
Yeah,
not having it all figured out. I think I think that it's hard. Most of us struggle with this, and I
yeah,
think what you're describing is also great for addressing rejection sensitive dysphoria, like
absolutely.
being able to kind of catch it and then yeah, share some other data. It's very hard to catch it, but once you do and you share some other data, it can de-escalate the
Yeah.
situation a lot.
It's it's good for me to okay, so when I'm going through that, it's good to have people around. Oh, hey. It's good to have people around me that, that can remind me of who I am, right? So when I'm feeling down or when that inner voice is like, "You're just not good at anything," it's good to share with my friends, like, "Hey, let me tell you what's swirling around in my mind today," and, you know, they're phenomenal at reminding me of, like, not only my spiritual truths, but who the truths are about me and how they see me, so I'm able to kinda redirect pretty quickly. Yeah,
Fantastic thing for anyone listening to do if you struggle with taking things personally, or perceived rejection or real rejection is I often talk about like rejection triggers a very primal part of us that's scared we're going to get ousted from our community and we're communal beings. So when you're like bringing that community in and saying, hey, these are some of the thoughts going through my head,
yeah.
and they're able to remind you alternatives, it kind of reassures like, okay, I'm safe. Community still accepts me. Like, and nervous system suddenly feels 10 times more regulated.
Yes, just at ease, it's like where you're able to exhale and you're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, alright, these things that I'm thinking are not true, and what they're saying, that is the truth, and that's what I'm holding on to today." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
That's
cannot wait to be on your podcast to talk about RSD and my life. This is gonna be great. I loved it. So, we talked about the successes, we talked about the deficits. I'm learning to not feel the pressure of being successful, letting some of those expectations go because I tend to set unrealistic expectations on myself and other people. And when they're not met, the expectations that I set on other people, when they're not met, then I'm disappointed. So I'm like, "You know what, Dari? Like, don't set those expectations. They're not attainable for other people, and also, a lot of times they're not attainable for myself." So just learning that for me is a
Yeah.
big thing.
That's huge. That's huge, and I think it's something I still struggle with. It's it's hard to yeah, lower the expectations because I always kind of wonder, like, is that what it's gonna take to
Yeah.
differentiate oneself? And I think the very interesting thing that, we I don't know, need to redefine as a society is, like, what is success? Because,
Yes.
well, yeah, we can very easily, in like the society I've been around, and I think a lot of kind of individualistic societies define success as like, okay, you have reached this point of your career, you've achieved this thing, you've earned this much money. There's signals of success being
Mhm.
like professional, or like some big
Absolutely.
brand of professionalism. And when I look at, like, being older, for example, and I look at, people who have focused more on their careers or people who have focused more on, like, their communities, it's often people who focus more on their careers that don't enjoy their retirements or don't enjoy
Yeah.
getting older as much as people who focused on their communities. And so maybe they did a fantastic job at raising their family and a fantastic job at, being the best aunt or the best cousin or the best neighbor in the world. And now they're in their 80s and 90s and they have this rich community to share that time with. And then there's people who achieve these great successes professionally and don't really know what it was all for when they're older.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just, yeah, I think it's easy to get lost in like a certain track of success and lose sight of like a more holistic approach.
Absolutely. And when you think of social media and it's on social media, I feel like everyone's putting their best foot forward. And you see their highlight reel. You don't see the rejection. You don't see the deficit that they have. You just see their success and their superpower. And you see them on vacation every other weekend. And I'm like, I want to go on vacation. I I like that house, like, I want a house that's, like, 20,000 square feet. No, I don't. Why would I even say that? Like, I don't wanna clean that. You see these things on social media and you're like, "This is what success looks like," and yeah, it's not. I love that you talked about being rich in community and, like, your friends and things like that. That's what success looks like to me. I wanna be around the people that love me wholeheartedly and accept me for who I am, and that when they come to my house or I'm at their house or we're just around in general, um, I can show up, like, as my true authentic self, like naked, you know what I mean? Where I don't have to mask, not naked literally, but I don't have to mask. I don't have to perform. I can just let my ADHD show, right? Like I don't have to kind of suppress it and yeah, they can see the whole quirky Dari and, the things that she does and still love her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's such a fantastic thing to strive for and more of that,
Yeah,
I'd
more
say.
of that. More of that. Not this year, but in the years to come also. Um,
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Completely agree. Thank you. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for
I
having me here.
I truly appreciate you. I just okay, you need to come back, and then we can talk about something
All
else, like or
right.
we can just have a session where it's like, we don't know what we're talking about, we're just gonna turn the mics on and turn the cameras on, and then we're just gonna talk.
Absolutely. Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett, he doesn't script his conversations. And his story of how he stopped scripting his conversations was that he used to script every single conversation, and then some kind of scheduling mishap happened, and there was a guest in studio, and he had no idea who this guest was. He hadn't prepared for anything. He didn't know like a single thing. He went into studio and got the guest to introduce themselves just so that he could get his name. And he said it ended up being one of the best conversations ever and like one of the best performing conversations ever because he allowed the conversation to just flow. And
I love
that's
that.
really difficult because I used to script everything. And then I was like, okay, now I research. So now I like have this notebook and I have know like all these things about the guest and like stuff they said and stuff, but I don't know where the conversation's gonna go.
Okay, so let me just tell you, this is helping me because my ADHD, which I don't wanna use that as a crutch, right? I feel like it has to be perfect. It has to be black or white. I have to have, like an episode outline. I gotta show all the things so I can know, but I love that concept of just doing a little research and allowing the guests to introduce themselves, and then you just learn from that. I like that. I like
It's
that.
it's something to experiment with. I think there's so many different styles, and some really great podcast hosts do their stuff pre-scripted.
Yeah.
It yeah, it just depends on the style that you want. But that was just fascinating to me, so I shared it.
Me too. I thank you. Listen, you this if this podcast did not help anyone else, which I know that it will, you helped me. All right, thank you for joining me, Alice. I truly appreciate you. Hey everyone, in the show notes, I will post some of Alice's blogs and some of your journaling, some of your all of your things, and also her podcast channel on YouTube and all the other podcast platforms that she is on. So, yeah, like and share and subscribe to my channel and also to Alice's, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
You're welcome.